By the end of my speech, the audience will understand what Norcross's argument about factory farming entails and why we shouldn't support factory farming. Norcross argues that if Fred tortures puppies, it is the same concept as factory farming. He does this by giving the example of what Fred brought to his court case, showing us why we can still make a difference by not eating meat and why some human beings are not as rational as animals. Alistar Norcross tells us a story about a guy named Fred who tortures puppies for his pleasure of gastory pleasure. As humans, we have evolved to have compassion and love for dogs. We have felt that the torturing of puppies was wrong, and the big question is, factory farming is wrong too, right? If we're allowed to torture farm animals for the pleasure of a $5 country fried chicken bucket, then Fred should be allowed to torture puppies for his pleasure. Fred knowingly tortures puppies and omnivores buy products that have been tortured by others. On the flip side, if you think it is wrong to torture puppies, then eating factory farm meat is morally wrong. I'll go through all the parts of Norcross's argument and you decide if it is plausible. So, Norcross's thought experiment. Fred is in a car accident where he damages his Godiva gland in his brain, and he can no longer produce the hormone cocamone to taste chocolate. Fred learns from a doctor that puppies produce the hormone cocamone. Fred has 26 puppies kept in small wire cages, showing many signs of torture. Fred explains that if he butchers the puppies while holding them upside down, and he does series of mutilations, such as cutting their nose and paws off with a hot knife, with no form of anesthesia. Fred tortures the puppies for his sake of tasting chocolate. He explains that he's a great lover of chocolate. Fred gets caught and he is arrested and is charged with animal cruelty. At his trial, he defends himself by telling the judge that he is innocent because he is no different than the people that work in factory farms, and if factory farming is acceptable, then so are his actions. With this in mind, let's dive into what factory farming really is. Factory farming. Today on farms, thousands of animals are cramped together in wire cages and tortured numerous ways. The easiest and cheapest way for these food companies to make money is to pump these animals with hormones and cram as many of them into windowless sheds. They are given so little space they cannot even lay down or turn around comfortably. Some chickens grow unnaturally large that their legs cannot support their outside body. Most people do not even know what factory farming is like. Most people do not know what factory farming is like. I know I didn't even know that it was that bad until I started to do research on the subject. So this is Norcross's thought and argument on factory farming. So he says, if it is wrong to torture puppies for gastory pleasure, it is wrong to support factory farming. It is wrong to torture puppies for gastory pleasure, therefore it is wrong to support factory farming. In sum, it is wrong to torture puppies for gastory pleasure, then it is wrong to support factory farming. So if you say that you were not aware of factory farming, which many Americans aren't, if you didn't know animals were tortured on factory farms, your behavior is morally permissible until you know they are tortured. Norcross's response to this is, both arguments are valid. The problem is the second argument does not provide a fitting reason for buying factory farm meats. Once the meat buyer understands eating factory farm meats is impermissible, then their behavior is morally wrong. For Caruthers, non-conscious experiences are possible, and animals are not conscious. The question is whether they experience pain. If there's nothing I can do about the animals, because if I stop eating meat, animals will still be tortured. Do I stop eating meat? If I do stop eating meat, there will still be animal torture, vice versa. Therefore, there will be animal torture no matter what I do, so I should not change my views. Norcross's response to this. The claim is that we cannot make a difference. Norcross says it takes one vote to make a majority, therefore the collection of these individual votes makes the change. Every tortured chicken not eaten helps the cause. On average, every American eats 25 chickens per year, and if 10,000 people, for example, stops eating chickens, that means 2,500,000 chickens will not be tortured and slaughtered. This will not all happen at once, but as soon as the demand for chickens goes down, they will not have to produce as many of them. The rationality gambit. Most people believe human beings have a higher moral status than other animals. The higher moral status should be given more moral consideration than other beings with less moral status. In the end, humans should be given more moral status than other animals. Norcross's response to this. Norcross's response to the rationality gambit. He explains that not all human beings are more rational than other species. Infants are cognitively not as sound as adults. Some animals are even smarter than those under the age of 7. The disabled and special needs have disabilities that can put them inferior to animals. Pigs are considered the 5th most intelligent animal in the world, even more than dogs. So why is their moral status lower than dogs? But we say animals do not have a right to life, so these others that may be inferior to animals do not have the right either. Therefore, we should be able to torture and eat marginal humans. Few would agree with this, but on the flip side, we should not torture animals for the same reasons. Norcross explains in depth why it is so wrong to eat factory farm meat. He does this by giving the example of what Fred brought to his court case, showing us why we can still make a difference by not eating meat and why some human beings are not as rational as animals. If we're allowed to torture chicken, cows, pigs for our pleasure, why can we not torture other animals for our need?